I call to order the regular meeting of the Mayor and Board of Trustees of the Village of Burr Ridge for Monday, September 14, 2020. I hereby declare that I have determined that an in-person meeting is not practical nor prudent on account of the disaster declaration issued by Governor Pritzker because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Well, now I will lead you in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic and nation under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Roll call, please.
Trustee Schiappa.
Here.
Trustee Francis.
Here.
Trustee Mytal.
Here.
Trustee Paveza.
Here.
Trustee Snyder.
Yes.
Trustee Model. Mayor Grasso.
Here. Takes us to item 3, presentations and public hearing tonight. We're having a public hearing, so at 7:01, I call to order the public hearing for an amendment to the Falling Water First Edition Annexation Agreement. Doug?
Yes, this is an amendment to an annexation agreement entered into by the village, I believe in 2008. Earlier this year, the village board approved an amendment to the resolution to the final plat, extending the deadline for subdivision improvements to July of 2022. This is a subdivision that was approved by the village. Final plat was recorded, final engineering plans approved, but the actual construction of subdivision improvements has never occurred due to changing economic conditions. At this time, the bank owns the property. The bank is in the process of finding a developer to complete the subdivision. And in order to do that, they need additional time. And they made that request through the annexation agreement, amendment to the annexation agreement. This is 5 lots in Falling Water subdivision. Representative of the owner is present, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that the public or the board may have.
Hello, this is Trustee Model. I'm present by phone. Hello, present by phone.
Trustee Model, you knew for weeks upon end. This board has been meeting via Zoom since approximately the middle of March. We instructed several times that you either must come to the boardroom or participate by Zoom, so the public has a right to see you. Unless there's a motion to allow you to appear telephonically.
No, Mayor, that's out of order. That's not what the governor's executive order or the Open Meeting Act says. You're incorrect. I'll participate by phone today. Thank you.
No, you won't. Not unless there's a motion to allow you to do so, since you have refused to follow the rules.
No, Governor. No, I'm following the governor's executive order as well as the Open Meetings Act. I know you think you make your own rules around here, but that's what the rules are, Gary. I'm going to follow them. Thank you. I'll participate by phone.
No, that is not the rule. I've been advised by counsel that if we've established a process by Zoom and given everybody fair notice, and you, I know I've sent personal emails to, telling you that if you're having any difficulty.
Well, I'm going to participate by phone, Gary, because if you block me today, I think it's pretty bad. You know, Gary, I'll participate. Thank you. I'm here and ready and able to participate. Thank you, Gary.
No, I'm sorry, unless the board members allow you to participate by phone, you are not going to get special privilege and decide how you wish to attend.
I'm not asking for special privilege. I'm asking for exactly what the Open Meetings Act and the governor's order entitles me to. You can violate the law, Gary, as much. I'm just giving you fair notice, Gary.
Am I correct that he has to either appear by Zoom or attend physically in the boardroom?
Yes, Mayor, you are correct. There's an established practice that requires that for these Zoom meetings, the trustees attend via video conference. trustee Mato, if you are not going to
No,
attend.
can you read the Open Meetings Act? Because that's actually not correct. It says I can participate by video and or telephone. Why don't you read it? You're the lawyer.
You may attend as a member of the public via telephone conference, but as a
Oh,
trustee,
I don't think that's what the executive order says, but you can interpret it how you'd like, and we'll get a ruling. What are you choosing to do, Gary?
You are not present here as a trustee. However, I will open it up to the board members. If a board member wishes to make a motion to amend the rule for tonight and allow you to appear telephonically, then I will certainly entertain that motion, a second, and a vote on it. Does any trustee wish to make a motion to allow trustee Model to attend only by phone?
This is Al.
Yes, Al?
The only question I have is why do we have one trustee that just don't agree to play by the rules? Every one of us come in by Zoom and he just seems to make a difficulty and decides he's going to do it his way, which I don't believe is right.
Does any trustee wish to make a motion to allow trustee Model to not attend by Zoom tonight and attend only telephonically?
I have two questions. This is trustee Francis.
Yes, Guy.
First of all, the first question is, could the village attorney introduce herself, please?
yes, this is Melissa Wolf from Storino, Romello, and Durkin.
Okay, thank you. And the second question, Mr. Model, why don't you want to participate via Zoom or in person?
I'd like to exercise the rights under the Open Meetings Act. I'm participating by telephone. I'm against Zoom as a platform. I think it's a bad platform. I think we should be using Google Meet or Hangout. There's many other more secure platforms that we should be using that I'd be happy to use. I've tried to talk to staff about that before, but no one will listen to me or let me entertain other options, Google Hangout or Microsoft Teams. There's many other formats, but Zoom is not a format I will participate in. So I'd like to participate by telephone, and that's what the Open Meetings Act and the governor's executive order does allow, to my knowledge.
So why don't you want to participate via Zoom?
Like I just told you, it's not a secure platform. Governments have been asked not to use it, and I can't put it on any of my computers or software. And so, you know, seems like an arbitrary change. Ever since I protested it, I've not been allowed to use the phone. We used to be using the phone, and now suddenly Gary won't use it simply because I want to use it. I mean, it's like I say black, he says white. This is crazy.
No.
You know, I just want to participate by phone, and that's what the law allows.
Well, except we have a village policy that doesn't allow that. It allows for Zoom and it allows for
Yeah,
in-person.
but village can't trump state law, to my knowledge. But if the attorney wants to advise you all differently, that's her choice.
This is a process of the quality of you being present in accordance with the rules and allowing the public to see you on Zoom. You have never raised.
I didn't know that's in the Open Meetings Act order, Gary. Is that in the Open Meetings Act? Where are
that
you
you would
quoting
like a
this
different
from?
platform. In fact, I have offered in emails and to you to have someone get your tablet, because you have the same tablet that every other trustee has, and you claim that your computer won't work. I don't see how that's possible since you have the same tablet that everyone else has. And I also offered that if you were having difficulty loading the software or having any computer of your choosing, a laptop or a desktop computer or your tablet, that I would have made the arrangements with staff to make sure that you could use Zoom.
But Gary, that's not what the
You
Open
have
Meetings Act
chosen,
says.
however,
I'm just following
to
state law,
insist
Gary.
on
You can make up
appearing
whatever you want to.
phone
I know you like to
and
make
the
things up
village-
your own way,
the
Gary.
village
I
order-
just want to follow the state law. Can we
Mayor,
just
can you
follow the state
continue
law,
on with
Gary?
Village business, please.
Yes, so does anybody wish to make a motion to allow trustee Model?
A point of order, there's no motion necessary, Gary.
rules.
I'm following the state law.
No, you're not, according to council. I'm going to follow advice of council. And you've been given warning
Well, I
after
can't wait to
warning
get a
after
ruling.
warning
We'll
for
get a ruling
weeks.
here.
And we have
We'll
been
get a ruling
gratuitous
from the
enough to
Attorney
allow
General.
you
We'll
to
get
break the
one.
rules. So is there a motion to allow trustee Model to attend by phone?
I think it would be highly disingenuous that you're going to block me on today's meeting, but go ahead.
So no one's blocking you. You have blocked yourself because you have decided to make this an issue.
No, I'm
When you
here.
could
I'm ready and
have
able to vote and
participated
do
by
my duties.
Zoom,
I'm here.
Or
It's
you
me.
allegedly
There's no
live
law
only
requiring me to be
a
on.
mile or so from the village hall, and you could have come to the village hall like trustee Skiappa did tonight, or trustee Snyder did tonight, but you've chosen not to do that either. So there's been no motion made for you to participate by phone, so you will not be allowed to participate by phone. Yes, trustee Snyder.
Trustee Model has been disruptive. We've had the discussion. We've asked him for the last 6, 8 meetings. Please participate. All his disruptions and constant badgering or putting staff and or any of the fellow trustees or yourself, Mayor, do we have to put up this? We spend our time to come to village meeting. If anything, can we just turn off his phone?
I don't think he's going to be able to participate by phone, so he can listen, I think, as a member of the public. I believe but he cannot participate as a trustee. So he will be not allowed to participate by phone as a trustee. Okay, so now
That's
we're
illegal,
on
Gary,
the
but
public
you
hearing.
guys can have your own opinion, your little kangaroo court there, Gary. And Joe, I'm not being disruptive. I'm just bringing the truth
Please
about
turn
all
him
the
off.
Can we mute him?
Please mute him.
Thank you.
Don't disconnect him, just mute him, okay? All right. Now we have the public hearing for an amendment to the Falling
Mayor
Water First
Grasso?
Edition Annexation Agreement.
Mayor Grasso, we had to disconnect him because if we mute him, he can unmute himself. That's our only option to mute him.
Well, mute him. He's not supposed to unmute himself. He knows the rules. The board, as a policy, the board will not allow him to participate by audio. And if he keeps unmuting himself and interjecting himself, then we'll take further action. Okay? Did you hear what I said, Brad?
I did. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So only mute him and we will continue. Go ahead, Doug.
Yes, so as I was saying, this is a public hearing to consider an amendment to the Falling Water First Edition Annexation Agreement. As I discussed, this is consistent with past actions by the village board and would only, does not change the subdivision in any way, just gives the developer 2 years to complete the subdivision improvement. To answer any questions from the public or from the trustees.
Well, let's start with the trustees. Do the trustees have any questions? The petitioner is here.
Yes, point of order. Can you hear me? This is trustee Model.
Please mute trustee
Well,
Model.
don't cut.
Okay. Any questions from the trustees?
I have no questions.
This is a public hearing. Is there any questions from the members in the public? And has anybody called in, Doug?
No, no one is called in.
Okay. So apparently the trustees are all comfortable with this. So can I get a motion to close the public hearing for an amendment to the Falling Water First Edition Annexation Agreement?
So moved.
Second,
Any discussion on the motion to close the public hearing? Any discussion from the public on the motion to close the public hearing? Roll call, please.
Trustee Snyder?
Yes.
Trustee Schiappa?
Yes.
Trustee Francis?
Yes.
Trustee Paveza?
Yes,
Trustee Mital?
yes.
5-0.
5-0, the motion passes. The public hearing is closed. That takes us to item 4. All items listed with an asterisk are considered routine by the village board and will be enacted by
Hello?
motion.
Hello, I was
There will be
voting
no
no. This is
separate-
trustee Model. I'm trying to vote no.
Please mute Trustee Model. If he interferes one more time, then disconnect him.
Hey, I'm videotaping
No.
this. I see you guys
Please-
playing games with
please
my phone,
disconnect
muting me and
trustee Model,
disconnecting
Brad.
me.
There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a board member or citizen so requests, in which event the item will be removed
Hey, I want to remove the one about Mickey's property. Can we remove that one?
by the board, open for public comment and voted upon during this meeting. Brad, please disconnect trustee Model. 5 minutes. A, approval of regular board meeting of August 24, 2020. B, receive and file Economic Development Committee meeting of September 2nd, 2020. 6E, approval of ordinance amending section 25.09 of chapter 25 liquor control of the Burr Ridge Municipal Code, Class S liquor licenses, the Hen House, 306 Burr Ridge Parkway. F, approval of ordinance authorizing a second amendment to annexation agreement and a first amendment of subdivision improvement completion agreement, falling water addition. G, approval of an ordinance granting special use approval pursuant to the Burr Ridge zoning ordinance for final site plan and building elevation approval to permit an office building in the T1 transitional district, Z04 2020 15W 230 North Frontage Road, Bowback. H, approval of an ordinance granting variations from the Village of Burr Ridge zoning ordinance for a principal building that exceeds the maximum FAR requirements, insufficient setbacks for a principal building in the corner and rear yards, a trash dumpster located non-adjacent to the rear wall of the principal usage, an off-street loading berth in a side yard adjoining a street, insufficient setbacks for off-street parking and off-street parking located in the front yard of the subject property, Z04 2020 15W 230 North Frontage Road, Bowback. 7B, approval of resolution approving preliminary plat, American Estate subdivision, 16W 415 99th Street. C, approval of a resolution proclaiming September 21 to September 27, 2020 as National Bicycle Week and September 22nd, 2020 as Bike to Work Day in the Village of Burr Ridge. 8, considerations. D, approval of recommendation to award a professional services contract for the water systems operations and sustainability study to Crawford, Murphy, and Tilly, Inc. of Aurora, Illinois. E, receive and file letter of resignation from probationary patrol officer Margaret Schneidel. F, approval of recommendation to hire replacement patrol officer to fill the vacancy created by the resignation of Margaret Schneidel. And G, approval of a vendor list dated September 14, 2020 in the amount of $498,933.85 for all funds, plus $199,387.83 for payroll for the period ending August 22, 2020, for a grand total of $698,321.68, which includes special expenditures of $372,026.70 to Schroeder Asphalt Services for the 2020 road program. Can I get a motion to approve the following items on the consent agenda? 5, A and B, 6, E, F, G, H, 7, B and C, 8, D, E, F, and G.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Is there any public comment on the consent agenda? If anybody is on hold and wishes to speak from the public on the consent agenda, please unmute and speak. Roll call, please.
Trustee Schiappa?
Yes.
Trustee Snyder?
Yes.
Trustee Francis?
Yes.
Trustee Mital?
yes,
Trustee Paveza?
yes,
0.
5-0, the motion passes. That takes us to 6 ordinances. A, consideration of an ordinance rezoning property from the B2 business district to the G1 general industrial district of the Burr Ridge zoning ordinance Z09 2020. 15W 776 North Frontage Road, Christiana.
Yes, the 6A, B, C, and D are all related, so.
Let me see if the trustees will combine them. Can I get a motion to combine for approval and discussion items 6A, B, C, and D? I've already read A, I will read B. consideration of an ordinance amending section 10F2 of the Burr Ridge zoning ordinance to add outdoor overnight space of retail vehicles and ancillary to a permitted or special use as a special use in the G1 General Industrial District Z09 2020 text amendment outdoor storage of retail vehicles. C, consideration of an ordinance granting a special use for an automobile and truck and equipment sales, rental and service use in the G1 General Industrial District Z09 2020 15W 776 North Frontage Road, Christione. And D, consideration of an ordinance granting a special use for outdoor overnight storage of retail vehicles ancillary to a permitted use or special use in the General Industrial District Z09 2020 15W 776 North Frontage Road, Christione. Can you get a motion to combine for discussion and approval items 6A, 6B, 6C, 6D?
Mayor?
So moved.
That's basically making it a consent agenda. What we should do is, even though you can discuss the different elements of A, B,
We'll take separate votes.
that would be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Then let's get a motion to combine for discussion only items 6A, 6B, 6C, and 6D.
So
Thank you.
move.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Mital,
Yes.
trustee Snyder,
Yes.
trustee Paveza,
Yes.
trustee Chiappa,
Yes.
trustee Francis,
Yes.
5-0.
Okay, so items 6A, 6B, 6C, and D are combined for discussion only. Doug?
I'll turn it over to Evan to give you the Plan Commission's recommendation.
Yeah, so this was discussed at your previous board meeting. This was a consideration to allow a truck sales use at, 15 West 776 North Frontage Road. Additions, Mr. Michael Christione. This was recommended for approval to prepare an ordinance at your last meeting. Again, just to go over the brief history of this use, the board had discussed this. This was a restaurant for many years. This was previously Porter's Steak and Seafood. Previously, it was vacant for several years, and previous to that, it was something called Tasso's Porterhouse. So it had a similar name but different owners. And it was a restaurant before that. I forget the exact name, but that was pre-annexation into the village in 1997. But in basic terms, what we have here is a rezoning from B2 to GI General Industrial, a special use for a truck sales use, a text amendment, I should say, to allow for outdoor storage of permitted vehicles subject to a retail use here, and then a special use for said outdoor overnight storage of retail vehicles at the permitted use. There was also discussion under the item 7A related to the resolution related to a sales tax sharing agreement. We'll come back to that later. But these four items were all generally related to the same particular petition, Z09 2020. Thank you.
Okay. Do I have any discussion with the trustees as to item 6A?
This is trustee Maytel. Quick question. I know that this is, we're going to watch and see how things go for a year, but if there are any violations of the rules, or if trucks are found to be parked where they're not supposed to be, how are we going to tackle that?
Sure. So just to clarify, all of these actions are permanent, except for the outdoor storage of vehicles. The outdoor storage of vehicles is the only temporary recommendation you're making here tonight. That is for 1 year from the approval of any ordinance that you may make. Everything else is permanent. However, just like any other special use, if we find through observation and investigation that there are in fact violations, for one example, they're only allowed to have 14 trucks on the property at any one time. If we found that there were 41, as an example, that would be a violation of their special use. At any point, the board has the right to go through another public hearing process at this level and revoke a special use. So on a basic level, this becomes really a code enforcement matter as to enforcing it per the conditions that you impose onto this business.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Does any trustee have any other questions regarding either this in general or 6A in particular?
This is trustee Francis. I have a couple comments. Is that
Yes,
okay?
sir. Go ahead.
So thank you, Evan, for giving us the history of the property. The prior to Tasso's name, it was Patrick's. It was a restaurant as well, and I recall that from the late 60s. Tasso's, as you mentioned, then it was vacant. Border House, Steakhouse. Several restaurants, at least 3 I'm aware of, have tried at this site to succeed, and they've failed. So maybe this isn't the best spot for a restaurant in the village. Maybe it needs to see another use. Sure, I'd love to see a 5-star restaurant there and be successful, but the economics have proven that a restaurant can't succeed there. So I'm open to suggestion. I'm willing to take a chance with the truck company. It's a local Burr Ridge resident with an ongoing business, relocating his office down the street into the village. And I see no reason why we shouldn't allow this. So I will support it fully, 100%. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, trustee Snyder.
I travel up and down Madison each day going to work. Property has been kind of beat up. Mr. Sony has already done a great job cleaning it up and making it look nice and neat. So going to work and coming home, property looks really good. So I would fully support it also.
Thank you. Anyone else? Trustee Scapa?
I'm up and down Madison Street too. And I know it's a good fit.
It's your jogging site, isn't it?
That's where I run. Yep. So when I use part of the pavement to run. But GTS Transportation is there, M&T is there, Lions Truck Sales is there. There are a couple of truck repair shops, not just one, but 2. There's a body shop. I mean, it's just in line. And I think he's going to make the property nicer. He's going to make it a sales office, and it'll be a nice cornerstone for the village.
Any other trustees want to make a comment or have a question?
Trustee Maytel here, from what he said the last time, it should be a really nice addition to that corner, and it'll just pick up the whole real estate appearance in that corner. So yeah, I'm for it. I think it's a great idea.
I will also note, which has already been pointed out before, both at the Plan Commission level and at the board level and by staff and by anybody that goes by there on a regular basis, that area also floods. And while we've improved it a bit, the fact that there are now going to be trucks there, at least the water will be under the trucks, probably wouldn't be great for sports cars, but the cabs at least can be there. I too wish there was a successful restaurant there, but as Trustee Francis has pointed out, history has told us that it doesn't appear to be a desirable place in the long term for a restaurant. So I believe this is a proper use for this site also. Is there anyone in the public, anybody here that has any comment on this? Or Doug, is anybody called in? If you wish, if you're online, excuse me, if you're on the phone and wish to comment, you can unmute and comment. We'll give you a moment to do that. There does not appear to be any public comment on this. So can I get a motion for item 6A, consideration of an ordinance rezoning property from the B2 business district to the GI General Industrial District of the Burr Ridge zoning ordinance Z09 2020 15W 776 North Frontage Road, Cressione.
Second.
Any further discussion by the board members, by any trustee? Roll call, please.
Trustee Snyder?
Yes.
Trustee Schiappa?
Yes.
Trustee Bethesda?
Yes.
Trustee Mytal?
Yes.
Francis?
Yes.
5-0.
But we've had discussion about all 4 items. Doesn't mean that if anybody has any other questions, don't feel free to ask them and it will be answered. But with that, I will take a motion for item 6B, consideration of an ordinance amending section 10F2 of the Burr Ridge zoning ordinance to add outdoor overnight storage of retail vehicles ancillary to a permitted or special use as a special use in the GI General Industrial District Z09 2020 text amendment, outdoor storage of retail vehicles.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion by any of the trustees?
I had one question.
Yes, sir.
So he's got to come back in a year to get this approved again?
No, this is simply to add the special use to the zoning ordinance. You're referring to,
But this is B, isn't this the 1 year?
you're looking at D as the 1 year.
A D at the
He
1
is
year?
the 1 year. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So no, this is not the 1 year. When we get to D, that'll be it. Any other questions? Any public comment? Wish to have public comment, you need to unmute, and if you're on the phone, and identify yourself. No public comment. Roll call, please.
Trustee Snyder?
Yes.
Trustee Schiappa?
Yes.
Trustee Francis?
Yes.
Trustee Mital?
Yes.
Trustee Paveza?
Yes.
5-0.
5-0, the motion passes. That takes us to item 6C, consideration of an ordinance granting a special use for an automobile and truck and equipment sales, rental and service use in the GI General Industrial District, Z09 2020, 15W776 North Frontage Road, Christione. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second. Any discussion by any of the trustees? Any public comment? If you wish to have public comment and you're on the phone, you need to unmute, identify yourself at this time. No public comment. Roll call, please.
Trustee Schiappa?
Yes.
Trustee Snyder?
Yes.
Trustee Paveza?
Yes.
Trustee Francis?
Yes.
Trustee Mital?
Yes.
5-0.
5-0, the motion passes. 6D, consideration of an ordinance granting a special use for outdoor overnight storage of retail vehicles ancillary to a permitted or special use in the GI General Industrial District, Z09 2020, 15W776 North Frontage Road, Christione. This is the one for 1 year, so would they have to come back in 1 year?
It expires 1 year from tonight.
All right, with that, can I get a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion by any of the trustees? Any public comment? If you are on the phone and calling in, you need to unmute. Identify yourself if you want to comment on this item. No public comment. Roll call, please.
Trustee Snyder?
Yes.
Trustee Mital?
Yes.
Trustee Paveza?
Yes.
Trustee Francis?
Yes.
Trustee Schiappa?
Yes.
5-0.
5-0, the motion passes. That takes us to resolutions. 7A, consideration of resolution authorizing agreement with Michael Christione for a contribution in lieu of sales tax. This is the Michael Christione night at the Burr Ridge Board. Doug?
Yes, this memorializes the agreement from the petitioner truck sales to provide a contribution in lieu of sales taxes. Board knows this property was zoned retail, has a history of being a restaurant that's generating sales tax. The petitioner in the zoning case has a business in unincorporated area north of this property and will register their sales at that unincorporated location because that's where they have their state license. So given all of those circumstances, petitioner volunteered to provide a $10,000 per year contribution in lieu of that sales tax. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
We might revisit in a year.
Yeah.
But anybody have any questions? Any of the trustees have any questions? And let me note for the record also that $10,000 annually, based on what I've asked staff to look at for sales either at Tassos or at Porterhouse, $10,000, we never received $10,000 a year in any 1 year, in any year from any sales from a restaurant. So in net dollars to the village, this is actually an increase if there was a historical restaurant that was there. Also, the public should know that truck sales are not really subject to sales tax. That's a federal law that I believe Illinois has adopted along with maybe 30 or 40 other states. So Mr. Criscione not only is a businessman in our community as of tonight, hopefully, he is a Burr Ridge resident, and he is being a good businessman and a good corporate citizen with the village of Burr Ridge, in my opinion, by making this offer of $10,000 compensation to the village. So with that, can I get a motion and a second to approve the resolution authorizing the agreement with Michael Criscione for the contribution in lieu of sales tax in the amount of $10,000?
So moved.
Second.
Any
Discussion on the
questions?
motion, please.
Yes.
Discussion on the motion. I think it's a very generous offer of Mr. Criscione. Want to donate this money in lieu of sales tax. Very generous, and I want to thank him for it. I want to welcome him to the village. I know he's a resident, but I want to welcome his business to the village, and thank you.
Any other trustees? Any comment?
I will echo what trustee Francis said. He did, I mean, there is actually no need to commit to an amount like that, but that was very generous of him to do that. And that's a good effort on his part. So we welcome him to the village.
Right. And then as a further accolade, there is already an improved, nicely kept building there, the former restaurant premises. Criscione is going to use that as more of a high-end business office. He's telling me that truck drivers nowadays and truck purchasers want to come in and have a latte and a cappuccino, hopefully. And he's going to have all of those amenities available and keep that building up. So yet another positive for this business. Is there any public comment? If you are on the phone and wish to comment on this issue, you must unmute yourself now and identify yourself so you can comment on this issue if you wish to do so. Is there any public comment? There is no public comment. Roll call, please.
Trustee Chapman? Yes. Trustee Snyder?
Yes.
Trustee Francis?
Yes.
Trustee Mytal?
Yes.
Trustee Paveza?
Yes.
5-0.
5-0, the motion passes. Michael, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to all the trustees for the nice words. I really appreciate it. And I'm going to take this time to make everybody here commit to my ribbon cutting ceremony. And I expect to see everybody there. So
What's the date?
I'm going to figure it out, but I'm thinking October. And I'm going to have Capri do the catering. So everybody will be eating and drinking well. So thank you guys so much.
All right.
The sign. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please let us know the date.
All right, that takes us to 8 considerations. A, presentation of fiscal year 2019-2020 audit.
I'd like to introduce Assistant Finance Director Amy Sullivan. I'm sorry, Amy Nelson. It's just inevitable I eventually do that. So Amy Nelson, Assistant Finance Director, who will tell you about the audit and introduce our auditor.
Thanks, Doug. We're pleased tonight to present the audit for fiscal year ending April 30th, 2020.
Amy, you're a little low on the volume. Can you bring the speaker up a little bit?
I can adjust the
That's
volume
good.
better. Okay.
Maybe you're closer.
Okay.
Thank you.
The village is required by Illinois state law to have an audit completed by an independent CPA firm and within 6 months of the village's fiscal year end. It's important to note that the auditors report to the board and the finance department facilitates the responsibilities of coordinating the audit. This year was an exceptionally unique year. If you remember back in February, per the village's auditor rotation policy, the village went through an RFP process and selected new auditors in order to comply with that rotation policy. In March, the village selected CPA firm Lauterbach and Amon to perform the village's annual audit right at the same time that the pandemic hit. Lauterbach and Amon is a proven leader in the government accounting industry and provides auditing and consulting services to over 250 local governments on an annual basis, as well as over 250 police and fire pension funds. In addition to selecting new auditors, the finance department had a goal this year of submitting our report as a first-time submission into the Government Finance Officers Association Certificate of Achievement Program. You'll note from prior years, our report is probably double in size that it has been in previous years, and that's to comply with the new reporting requirements. Despite the uncertainty in March through May and how we were going to navigate the audit fieldwork process through the stay-at-home order and the pandemic, with the help of technology and teamwork from not only the finance department, but other departments within the village, we were able to get all the historical data we needed. And we also successfully completed field work with Lauterbach and Neiman staff on site as we normally would in July. With us tonight, I'd like to introduce Tim Gavin from Lauterbach and Neiman. He will present the annual audit report and go over the process with it. Also available is Todd Schroeder from the Lauterbach and Neiman actuary team, who handles the police pension side if there's any questions related to the pension. I'll now turn it over to Tim.
Thank you, Amy. Thanks for having me here tonight. First things first, I definitely need to thank Amy and Jerry and the whole team for navigating this unique year, especially us being new to the village and the circumstances with the pandemic causing a lot of change in process. I have to say the whole audit went very smoothly. The village team was very, very responsive, and especially for a first year client with us, it was a very, very smooth process. And to expand a little bit on what Amy was describing regarding the financial report that's been issued for this year, I just want to clarify that it is a voluntary thing that the village has taken on to expand this document to a comprehensive annual financial report. Most of the work in adding the content that makes this comprehensive does fall on the village. So to take all that on this year was certainly an accomplishment. As she mentioned, it will be submitted to the GFOA for their certificate program. We have an impeccable track record with them as far as submitting reports. So we fully anticipate that next year's report will contain the certificate for this year's report.
And would you explain further for the public why that is significant and why the village has asked you to take that route?
Certainly, the comprehensive financial report adds a lot of content that makes it a far more useful document. A typical annual financial report is going to present the usual financial schedules, budget versus actual information, as well as the note disclosure supporting the document. The additional content involves some introductory information, including a transmittal letter that discusses the village in general, some high-level policy and economic factor information, an organization chart, a list of principal officials, and then toward the end, at the very back of the report, it adds a significant amount of data in terms of 10-year statistical information that covers the financial results of the village for the last 10 years, its ability to issue and pay off debt, its ability to issue and collect and raise revenue, demographic and economic information, as well as operating statistics. All of that making it like I said, a significantly more useful document, not only for the village board and management, the general public, rating agencies, et cetera.
And that's the point I wanted to make, is that this is an enhanced report that the village asked to participate in, hope to get the certificate. But this also gives even a better picture to the general public of the finances of the village and would guide them better through the documents should they wish it. Am I correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
A great summary. So what I'd like to do is mention a couple more things about the report, point out a few key financial highlights, and then open it up for questions. In particular, I want to draw your attention to the actual product of our work, and that is The only page with our letterhead on it is page 11, and that's the independent auditor's report. As in prior years, at the bottom of that page, we have issued an unmodified opinion, also known as a clean audit opinion. That's the highest level of assurance that we are allowed to give. And then what I always say is if you do not read anything else in this report, please read the management's discussion and analysis. That starts on page 14. It lays out in mostly layman's terms how the report is structured, some key financial highlights, some narrative wording to explain why the numbers are the way they are, why they've changed from last year to this year, some factors affecting the future, and so forth. So it provides a great summary picture of the village's finances in a little bit more easy to read way, and also providing some reasons behind those circumstances. Moving on a little bit to some of the financial highlights, I'm going to direct your attention to pages 33 and 34, it's the balance sheet of the governmental funds. The main thing to point out here is the ending fund balance for, I'd say, both the general fund as well as all funds combined. The general fund did show a positive $5.3 million fund balance at the end of the year, of which actually it's a little over 5 million is totally unrestricted, which means no third party is telling the village how it can spend and allocate those funds. Also, in total, all governmental funds of the village had about an $11.4 million ending fund balance, of which roughly half of that was unrestricted. A couple of pages later, pages 37 and 38 represents the income statement for the governmental funds of the village. And again, the general fund did see almost a $300,000 increase to its bottom line fund balance. In total, all governmental funds did see a decrease of about $350,000, but you will note that a significant portion of that is actually intentional spend down due to capital projects. A few pages later, the proprietary funds that consist mostly of the water and sewer funds of the village. Pages 41 and 42 represent the balance sheet of those funds. Page 43 represents the income statement. The water and sewer funds combined did see a total decrease in net position of about $900,000. On an operating basis, it was a loss of about $1.3 million. I won't bore you by going over all of the note disclosures, but just know that they're there. And if you want to dig deeper into any of the details, there's plenty available. But another thing I wanted to draw your attention to just briefly is immediately following the notes and starting on page 91 is a series of trend information specific to the pension funds. In particular, the IMRF, OPEB, IMRF police pension and OPEB. Every year since the new pension reporting standards came out, we add 1 year to this trend information. So at this point, for IMRF, there's 5 years of trend information. Same thing, so police pension fund, there's 6 years of trend information, and the OPEB standards, which are a little bit newer, is now presenting 2 years. Those will continue to grow year over year until they reach 10 years of information. So you have a lot of data to analyze and track the progression of the pension funding and contributions. And finally, the last component of the report that I did mention earlier, but I wanted to point out its location, is starting on page 125, the statistical section. That's what I mentioned before, where the village is presenting 10 years of statistical information on a number of different topics. So again, a wonderful place to go for additional analysis and tracking how the village has progressed in these different areas. Those were the items I planned on covering. I am happy to answer any questions that the board might have on the audit process or the comprehensive annual financial report.
Thank you, and we will start with the board members. Any board member want to ask? I'm sorry, give me your name again.
Tim Gavin.
I asked Tim, any questions?
One question.
Yes, Tony?
In your management letter, it talks about a capital asset policy, and that we don't have one, and that we should institute one. Is that for the purposes of the certification, or just for tighter auditing standards, or what?
Just in terms of financial reporting, it's one of our kind of best practice policies, along with having a fund balance policy, investment policy, things like that. So it's a document that pretty much just guides how the capital assets of the village end up in the report, what thresholds, what kind of useful lives are being used.
Okay.
So our recommendation is that it's best practice to have that policy in place.
Because I noticed that our land is the same value for 10 years, right of way land. And do you know how we came about that value?
So the right of way, and I'm going back to obviously prior to working with the village,
Yes,
but
yeah, right.
typically the accounting standards that came about to require reporting those particular assets came about in the early 2000s. And at that time, the common practice was to basically get an assessment of all of the right-of-ways and other infrastructure that was owned by the village and estimate the historical costs, indexing to approximate years of acquisition or building. Usually an engineering firm would have done that in the past. Now, when those are put on the books for financial reporting purposes, they're put on at that cost, historical cost,
Okay.
and kept that way. So
Okay.
the only thing that's going to affect it is either disposing of the assets or acquiring new ones.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
Wait, any other trustee have a question? Yes, Doug?
I just wanted, I think we put this in the written summary, but obviously this is a lot to digest over the weekend.
Yes.
Certainly, we don't expect that you'll have all your questions ready for tonight. And if at any point after you dig deeper into this, you want to have the auditors back, or just direct email questions to us, we can get those answers to you either at a board meeting or offline.
Sure.
Anybody else have a question?
This is,
Yes. Trustee Francis?
go ahead.
Anita, go ahead.
So quick question, regarding the depreciable assets. I mean, is there a criteria how you figure out how they're going to be depreciated, or a table that you use? What is the criteria for that? Because you have fixed numbers, I believe it's on page 41.
Page 41.
Yes, that's a great question, and that's actually the reason behind recommending a policy. Now, what's been in place obviously is internal practice. It's just not been written down. But typically, there's a minimum threshold, and a capital asset is typically determined to be a single asset that whose useful life exceeds 1 year and whose initial cost exceeds that threshold amount. And Amy might know this off the top of her head, but the current threshold in practice used by the village is $10,000. So an individual asset exceeding that $10,000 threshold would be reported as a capital asset. And then again, common practice on page 55 is where those criteria are disclosed. But depending on the type of asset, there's a table that determines how long it will be depreciated. So for example, a vehicle that costs $25,000 would fall in that 5 to 15 year vehicle and equipment depreciation range.
Okay, and the assumption is that in 40 years or 50 years, it will become zero, so graded accordingly.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear the question.
Speak up, please, Anita. I don't think we heard you.
The assumption is that in 50 years, the value will be zero or whatever the term is, and they graded based on that, or?
Yeah, the goal would be to set a policy that estimates the actual useful life of an asset so that by the time it's fully depreciated, its book value is zero and the actual value may be negligible or a salvage value of some kind.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Anybody else?
This Trustee Francis, I have a question and also a comment.
Yes.
Question of staff. So the auditor is recommending a asset management policy. How does staff plan to implement that? If they do plan to implement it?
Yes, I've talked to the finance department about that. We have done that in the past, and we have a lot of data and that we can use to recreate that or update the capital asset plan. And we'll be working through the finance department and resurveying village assets, equipment, vehicles, et cetera, and then preparing a capital asset plan.
Okay.
Amy, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Tim, could you give her the podium, please?
Yeah, just to add to Doug's comment, so kind of like what Tim mentioned back in the early 2000s when I think it was GASB 34 was established, the village did undergo a large valuation process of land and infrastructure. We have a lot of internal policies. It's just putting that on a document and formalizing it into a policy. So I think, as far as the asset tagging and a lot of that's already been done, it's just formalizing a policy, so that just similar to like our fund balance reserves and investment policies. So there's something to rely on. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Yes, it does. Thank you, Doug, and thank you, Amy. And a comment. So reading the opinion from the auditor, I'm going to quote it here. In our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects. The respective financial position of the governmental activities, the business type activities, each major fund, and the aggregate requiring fund information of the Village of Burr Ridge, and so on and so on. I just want to thank village staff, particularly Jerry and Amy and the finance department, as well as Doug and the auditor, Tim Gavin and his team, for an outstanding job of maintaining our village finances in a clear, concise, and easily understandable methodology according to GASB and all the other generally accepted accounting principles. And I think they've done an outstanding job. I just want to thank them. And that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Anybody else?
This is Al.
Yes, Al.
Since this was a new company and, a lot of things had to be done, and I've got to second what Trustee Francine said about staff.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Well,
I have a few questions. Sure. But I will start with, as the mayor of the Village of Burr Ridge, thank you for everything you've done here, especially Jerry and Amy and your staff. And I know Doug and Evan and everybody else has to chip in, but Amy, you and Jerry had a lot on your shoulders, not the least of which is COVID and trying to work under these circumstances. And on top of that, we asked you to do more than we had asked in the past so that we can get this certificate. So we piled on, and Jerry and you and staff all responded. It did not go unnoticed. I'm recognizing it tonight as the mayor and want to thank you. And I wish Jerry was here, but we would thank Jerry too when I see him. So I'm very appreciative of the efforts that were done to get this product in front of us tonight. I was going to read the very portion of your report that Trustee Francis read, because I think it's important that the public know that not only do we have an enhanced audit here, but that you as the professional have found it all in proper format and our documentation was proper, and that this village, as it has always in the past, can rely on the fiscal integrity of this village because of this board and past boards. So I do thank you for that. Now I do want to go through a couple of things here, and a couple of things I want the board and the public to know. So if you go to page 14, the financial highlights that Tim was beginning to talk about and pointed to us, you'll note in bullet point 2, the only thing that we have been discussing from when I first took over as mayor, and I'm sure the board did before that, but the issue you'll see there in bullet point 2, the village's restated net position decreased as a result of this year's operations. Net positions of business type activities decreased by about 1.7%, and net position of the governmental activities also decreased by about 1.3%. Contributing factors to the decrease in governmental activities were increases in the net pension liability of the police pension fund of 1.2 million, and in other operations. But the point that I want to drive home again is that when you read through this document, it paints a very good, accurate picture of the finances of Burr Ridge. The only thing that we have to keep our eye on, and which we have been keeping our eye on, and I noted when I came back as mayor, is that the police pension, although as you see in this document, we have always met the required contribution every year, it's because that pension liability continues to grow that we need to watch it. This board tried to address that, I think admirably, with a home rule. Unfortunately, we couldn't get our message out correctly, but luckily our village finances are such that we'll be able to carry this in the near future. But this is something to keep our eye on because it is the only negative in this entire report. We are a very fortunate village, but that police pension, which again, so the public knows, is an unfunded mandate. And what that means is that Springfield tells us what we have to pay in premiums, in pensions, but never provides a revenue stream. It's irresponsible government. So that revenue stream is done by us here locally. We have to come up with, in this case, $760,000 this year. And if you read through this report, you'll see how that number has grown. And what isn't in this report, but this board knows, is that that number is quickly going to get up to $1 million a year. So that is something to watch. Note too, on page 14, the 5th bullet point, the general fund reported a surplus this year of $278,077. We have a general fund surplus, resulting in ending fund balance of $5,318,933, or an increase of 5.5%. This is a very healthy economic position to be in for a village. I can tell you as a mayor and been a longtime mayor prior to this, I talk to mayors all the time. Mayors would envy us for what we've been able to do for our village and the kind of fund balances we have and the kind of reserves that we have in this village. I also want to take you to, I think it's page 92. I kept my notes accurately. And that's the page that will show you, by the way, on the police pension fund, that in 2015, a mere 5 years ago, we were contributing $544,000 a year. Then it went to 593, 697, 780, 748, and this year almost $760,000. So that number continues to increase. And that's something I know the board is aware of, but I want the public to understand that this village has met what the actuary tells us to pay, and that's the money we paid every year. And yet it's still, because of the benefits, we're lagging still a bit, like many, all villages in the state of Illinois are lagging to keep up with their pension obligations. I want to take you to look at page 133. Look at the changes in the fund balance. That's this page here. Note as you get to the bottom, debt service as a percentage of non-capital expenditures. Look how low it is now. Look how low. It's such a healthy fiscal climate that we are in the village of Burr Ridge. Again, something that would be envied by many people and many other communities. Page 141 to 142, that I think is the debt balance. Again, very low debt for a village. Very low debt for this village. And let's see, I think I want to take you also to page 151, 152. Look towards the middle of the page under finance, village bond rating, Moody's bond rating. Look across the board there, how this village, with the help of a great staff, has maintained since 2011. And I can tell you as mayor prior to that, it was also prior to that, a AA1 or AAA for purposes of municipalities. I will tell you that that would be AAA, but for the fact that pension liability is on here, which affects every municipal Even DuPage County, when I was on the DuPage County Board, lost its AAA rating because of the pension liability. Okay, because it was a new form of accounting. Top, all the way across. Look to at the public safety crime statistics that Chief Madden took us through last time as to how safe this village is. How these numbers from part 1 crime offense, part 2 crime offense. What's a part 2 crime offense, Chief?
Lower offensive stop.
Okay, and look at the felony and misdemeanor arrests. Down, because our crime offenses are down also. Start totaling those numbers. Last year, it would have been 487. The year prior to that, it'd be 595. Into the high 700s the year before. Those numbers are all going down because of our great police department. So far from what one trustee said here, and what all of the other 5 know, all the residents know, and this mayor knows very well, this village is safer today than it was years ago. And it was very safe years ago. This is proven out here. So kudos again to that. I just went through this. Also look at something else on the prior page, 149 to 150. Since 2011, the total full-time or FTEs for the village was 55, and today it's 56. We are doing more with less. More with less. This village has been well-run year in and year out. And it's all shown in this document. I can take it further, but I'm sure the rest of you will get through it. I just happened to have a lot of coffee last Sunday morning and decided to go reading through it. But I was very proud to be the mayor of this village. I was always proud to be the mayor of this village, but it's even stronger now fiscally than it was 10 years ago, 5 years ago. So I found this it made my weekend going through this report. So again, and I'll finish, Amy and Jerry and the staff, Doug, Evan, everybody else, but for you, we wouldn't have such a great report in front of us. And but for this board and all the prior boards, we wouldn't have a great village and a fiscally sound village that the residents of this village know that they are living in a village where this board watches their money. So thank you very much. Any other comments by any of the trustees? Anybody in the public that wish to make a comment? Is there any other public comment? Anybody on the phone? If anybody wants to make a comment, please unmute yourself and let us know now. No public comment. Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks.
That'll take us to 8B, consideration of continuing the cost sharing agreement with restaurants for outdoor dining tents and related facilities. Evan?
Thank you, Mayor. This was placed on the agenda tonight at the previous extension of the outdoor tent agreement on August 10th. This is meant purely to be an update. There's been no changes proposed by the restaurants to the 60/40 cost sharing agreement. We have been engaging with the tent company who's been working with several tent users. We're preparing for more temperate fall weather. It's not 85 at 6 o'clock in the evening anymore. So they're putting up things like sidewalls and incorporating temporary propane heating into the tent structure. This does not make it outdoor dining and indoor dining. It simply allows for better heat circulation within the tents. This is entirely safe. This is work that's being inspected by the fire department all turns. So this is still remaining to be safe dining from a health perspective, while also being safe from a temperature and life safety perspective as well. Staff, we have been talking to some of the restaurants. They are likely to request an extension beyond the current October 26th middle date that the board has currently funded the tents through. We're also working with a number of restaurants to consider ways to have safer indoor dining over the winter. Indoor dining is something that will be a reality, perhaps an eventuality here in the village and all other places throughout the United States. We're looking to invest in technologies that will make the air safer. We're looking into a number of technologies, and we'll be bringing them to the EDC at their meeting next month. We're very excited to share some of the innovations we've found that makes indoor and outdoor dining safer for all residents and visitors to Burr Ridge. going forward. If there's any questions, I'll be here to answer them. Thank you.
Okay, and I also have with Evan and without, I did meet with the heating contractor of all the tents, tent contractor for all the tents about heating. I've also met with Eddie's, Patty's, Capri, and spoke to Bronco at Topaz, and understand that from staff Falco's, all of them are interested in trying to better heat their tents, to try to string this out as long as possible, understanding that these tents can't withstand December, January, or February. Most humans can't in Chicago, but we're trying the best we can to keep people who want to come to the tents more than they want to go inside, keep them warm enough so that they'll come out and keep these restaurants going and keep our place of eating tax and our sales tax as high as possible. So believe me, it is on our radar every day. Does anybody have any comments? Any trustees have any questions about this?
I have a comment. I want to commend the village for, being farsighted enough to set up the tents, and I think we've set a very good example. The other villages recognize Burr Ridge as a visionary and, being proactive. I think we've supported the restaurant so far, and, they're very happy with us. And I think we should support them going forward as well.
I couldn't agree more. Thank you, Anita. Anybody else? Is there any public comment on this item? If you were on the phone and wish to make a comment, you need to unmute yourself, identify yourself, and you may comment on this item. There's no public comment. 8C, consideration and approval of request for proposal, an RFP, for business district consultant services. Evan?
Thank you, Mayor. You can find attached a draft request for an RFP for our business district consultant services. This is created by staff at the direction of board at their August 24th meeting. We reviewed this with the EDC at their September 2nd meeting. The purpose of the RFP is intended to solicit proposals from qualified firms who would assist the village in analyzing the downtown sub-area for compliance and appropriateness with the state's business district development law. This was recommended at the advice of our legal counsel. But again, the purpose of the RFP is to find qualified firms who can establish to determine whether the village is eligible for a district. We established that on our own. Staff's initial consultation and statistical analysis shows that we would be, but we want to have a qualified firm assess that themselves, as well as to provide the village with a district plan. A plan is required by state law to establish a district, so this would be a necessary function of the consulting process to establish the necessary plans that come through it. If authorized for approval tonight, we would be releasing it tomorrow, and the EDC would be reviewing this at their meeting in October. At that point, we'd be bringing it back for a potential award at the October 12th meeting. There's no cost to issue this RFP. Again, we'd be working with the EDC to find a qualified firm, and only then, once you award a contract with the village, be liable for any costs related to hiring a consultant. I do want to note for the record that if the village does hire a consultant and then apply for a district and get it, the cost of providing a consultant will be paid back by the district to the general fund or whatever fund that the money is accessed to pay the consultant. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, any comments by any of the trustees? Yes, Joe.
Evan, in the last discussion, last meeting, we were going to bring this up in this meeting because we were on a time frame. We had to get this in and approved off with the RFP so we can stay in front of it to catch the funds for next year.
We have until April 1st to establish the fund for next year, so we do have time. We do anticipate this will take about 8 weeks once we hire, or if we do hire a consultant. So we do have time. However, we do want to make sure the board has sufficient time to, again, take its time should it elect to.
Yeah, and I would like us to do exactly that. Take our time, go slow. We're just going to have an RFP right now, which will be reviewed by the EDC, then come back to the board, even if we decide to do the RFP. Then we'll see what the RFP is and how much money is involved just to do the study. This board may decide to reject that at that time or not. If we go forward with that, it doesn't mean we have to adopt a business district, but it will give us all the ins and outs. right now, I think the community coming out of COVID and all the things related to COVID, I know I'm mentally and physically fatigued by it all. I'm sure everybody else is as well. There is a very contentious national election coming up at this time. We have a contentious state elections and local elections. There are a lot of things on the residents' mind. I don't think that we'd be able to be packaging a lot of this for their consumption and their direction until maybe the spring of 2021. So it's on pace for that, but I really want to go slow with this so that the public has a fair chance to weigh in. This, on an economic level, sounds like a good idea. I'm certainly intrigued by it. I'm glad that the EDC and Evan and the Village Center brought this forward. It could be a vehicle to spur development in the Village Center in County Line Square and hopefully the TCF. But at the same time, the reality of it is it would increase the sales tax, probably a half a point. We could do as much as a point. I don't know how advisable that would be, but it would be a sales tax increase. So that's something I really would want to hear from the residents and give them more than enough time to weigh in on that so that we would get proper direction from the residents. So I really want to go slow. I do want to get through the process of an RFP and then decide if we have a consultant and then decide what that means for the village in terms of the pros and the cons. The cons stand out as a sales tax increase. The pros may well be much higher than that, but we need all the information. We need to get that out to the public and have it on the agenda a few times so we get their input. So we're in the process, but I'd like to go very slow and deliberate so the public has an opportunity to understand exactly what we're trying to achieve here if we decide to do that. Yes.
I did like I think at the last meeting, we had a bunch of our business owners come forward and even were very positive about it, from bringing additional things here. So it's nice that you're taking your direction, but I also like when our own business owners can say, listen, I'm all in at the 0.5% because that brings more to here to Blue Ridge. Thank you.
And maybe the public will agree, but I really want to know that the residents also agree with our business owners. After all, they're our residents, and many of our business owners are our residents also, but not all of them. So I do also want to hear from our residents. Anybody else?
This is Trustee Franzese. I have a few comments.
Yes.
So we all know that there's elections coming up in November. Our experts in Springfield can get a vote on a constitutional amendment referendum for sales tax increase, income tax increase, but they can't seem to get a referendum on the ballot for a pension reform. It's very disappointing. In other words, it's going to be a contentious election, like you mentioned this spring, on an income tax increase, on a presidential race, and other races throughout the state. Our residents are going to have a lot on their minds. I know I certainly have a lot on my mind with these upcoming elections. In addition, there are several other aspects. We're asking staff to do more. We just asked them again tonight to do more with this asset management policy and to complete that. We're asking them, always asking them to do more. We've got adjudication. We're trying to get established this fall. The business license program is on hold, but that'll certainly get resurrected. Again, we're asking them to do more, and we're actually down a half a person right now on staff, and plus several police officers as well. So this may not be the right time to execute this initiative. I suggest we wait till the spring, 9 months, maybe a year, till things have calmed down. We don't know. Certainly, the big question mark is COVID. I mean, our residents can't even come in and speak at the meeting, or they can, but they may be afraid to because of the virus, and they may have difficulty calling in or watching us on Zoom. But certainly, it's more difficult for them to come and speak their mind. I'd like to have things loosened up here. Hopefully, someday we'll be in phase 5. Certainly not stuck in phase 4 for the next several years. And I just want them to have a full voice in this matter They're the ones that are going to pay the extra 0.5% sales tax. And hopefully they will be the ones that will see the businesses flourish, new businesses come, and businesses that serve the needs of the residents here in the village. So those are my comments right now. In summary, I'd like to see us hold off 9 months to a year on this initiative. We can certainly go off the RFP, see what it's going to cost, see if there's any interest for these consultants. But I think we need to move slowly and cautiously, like you mentioned. Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, Tony?
I agree, Mayor. I think there are a lot of topics in people's minds as residents, and even more specifically here in Burr Ridge, where our finance department is dealing with a budget that they had to do twice because of the effects of COVID that we're still working through. I mean, we're still in between plexiglass. So I think it's a good idea to wait. Let's see how we progress past our pandemic, get past the election, and work with what's on our plate. And I'm anxious to find out more information about this BIDS program. And like Trustee Snyder said, all the business owners were here. They supported it. They were excited about it. I think it's going to build that center and make it an attraction, a real attraction for our residents and our neighbors as well.
We can start slow with the RFP. Tony will then come back to the EDC, and then we'll bring it back to the board, and this will move it into the spring. So anybody else?
I just want to say, I think it's a good idea to start with the RFP. And regarding the taxes, I mean, yes, the residents would be exposed to those, but there are a lot of other people from neighboring towns who are also coming into Burr Ridge. We've seen that with the restaurants. I think a lot of people from Oak Lawn and other suburbs who've joined us. So, you know, that'll give us an opportunity to get some revenue from them as well.
Good point. And I will tell you that the restaurant owners told me that since the tent program, they have seen new customers well outside even the immediate area of Burr Ridge. To your point, Oak Lawn and other places, but they've come up here because, according to the restaurant owners, it's they think it's a safer place to go out and have fun and dine. So that has been also very good for Burr Ridge. With that, can I get a motion? And this is only to approve the RFP. It's not to go further than that. This would be a consideration and approval of a request for an RFP for the Business District Consultant Services. You have a motion, a second?
Second.
You have a second. Any further discussion? Is there any public comment on this before we vote? If you want to comment on this issue right now before we vote, you need to unmute yourself and identify yourself, and you can comment. No public comment. Roll call, please.
Trustee Snyder.
Yes.
Trustee Schiappa.
Yes.
Trustee Francis.
Yes.
Trustee Mytal.
Yes.
Trustee Paveza.
Yes.
5-0.
5-0, the motion passes. Okay, this takes us to item 9, which is public comment. And this is public comment on any item that's either on the agenda or not on the agenda. Anything that you wish to comment on. Is there any public comment? If you are on mute, you need to unmute yourself and identify yourself, and you can have up to 5 minutes for a public comment.
Mayor, Richard Morton, my video is not working. I apologize.
Well, go ahead, Mr. Morton.
I have a question to clarify something in my mind. I read a patch story today that seemed to be making reckless comments, and I'd like a clarification what the dollar amount would be that the village would be spending to do the improvements and the continuation of the outdoor dining program. Could you comment to that for a second?
This would be the, I'm not aware of the article you're talking about, Mr. Morton, but let me see if I can phrase your question. The board at the last meeting approved an extension on a 60-40 basis, 60 for the restaurateur owner and 40% for the village, to extend the tent rentals at 4 or 5 locations, wherever they are, to October 26th, I think. Evan, do we have the numbers for what that additional amount of money would be?
It would be about $20,000 total for the village for that 11-week period.
So nowhere near the number I saw cited in the patch of $600,000, and
I hope not.
yeah, and it seemed unreasonable to me.
It would seem imaginary to me. I can't imagine anybody getting to that kind of number, especially if they actually had the information available to them or could have asked for the available information, just as you just did, Mr. Morton, as a responsible citizen. So
yeah.
It's $20,000 for these 6 weeks. We spent about $125,000 out of the hotel motel fund, which would have otherwise been wasted on advertising contracts at O'Hare and at Midway when both airports were essentially shut down. And so that money would have been wasted and was redirected to what has become, as I think Trustee Mittal said, a stellar program, envied by others, great government in action at a crisis. And I can't imagine what article you're talking about, but who's ever got those kind of numbers out there just doesn't understand or is deliberately misleading.
Right. Thank you, Mayor. And one other follow-up. By making that investment, the restaurants have had patrons coming, buying foods and beverage, and paying sales tax that flows back into the village coffers, which the village can then spend in an undistributed, unrestricted manner. Is that correct?
That's correct. And one of the restaurants came here publicly to tell the board that that restaurant is back to 100%. I don't know that there's a restaurant in DuPage County that could, or Cook County, that could possibly say they're back to 100% or even close.
Yeah,
So,
Mayor.
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Moore.
Yeah, I was just going to say thank you for entertaining my questions, and to all the board members that show up and do the job of the village and the people's business, I thank you all.
You're welcome.
Welcome.
Any other public comment, Doug? Any other public comment? Okay. Now, I'd like a motion to be made.
You got reports.
Yeah, reports.
Oh, reports and communications before closed session? Yes, of course. I'm sorry. Reports and communications from village officials. Do we have any reports and communications? Yes, Tony.
We get magazines delivered to us as trustees, and this magazine, American City and County, put out an article in July of 2020. The title of the article is "Neglect is Killing American Infrastructure." And I tell you, I had a smile on my face when I read the article, and I'm gonna put David on the spot here. But one of their comments here is, great infrastructure has two ingredients. The first is planning and building reliable quality assets like roads and bridges. But the second is monitoring and maintenance of those assets over their lifespan. We do the first well, and then they say everyone else does the second poorly, except for us. We have an extensive and comprehensive road program that's led by a street policy committee, and David, and I know Trustee Francis as the chair of that street policy committee, where we've got some of the best roads here in the village. And that's why I smiled reading this article, because none of it applies to us. We've got a great program, and the fact that I was looking at my tax bill today, and my levy to Burr Ridge for my tax bill at home went down 60% from 6 years ago. So my levy to what I pay to Burr Ridge went down 60%. And we still have the best roads, the best security, and the best staff here in the village of Burr Ridge. That's my comment.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, Anita?
So I just wanted to give everyone an update about the census. As of today, the self-response rate is at 79.4%. The census takers are out. They're going door to door, and I'm told that they will be going door to door till the end of this month. I'm in contact with the managers and the enumerators, and we're trying to make sure that we get into all the gated communities. We're talking to the managers to get their help for that. Also, we have been in touch with the Mecca Center and the Coptic Church. We're trying to send them electronic mailings and paper mailings so that they can reach out to their followers or parishioners. We've been in touch with the middle school and the high school. We're sending them electronic flyers in Arabic, English, and Spanish so that they can reach their student bodies. I've also been to the farmers market and the drive-in. I've pretty much gone asking each and every person. And that's where I saw that a lot of people who are not Burr Ridge residents are coming to these places. But pretty much everyone I've talked to has done it. So if anyone has any ideas as to what we can do to make a final push, feel free to reach out to me.
Thank you for that, and I know you're sharing that with Patricia Schiappa, your co-chairs, and at 79%, that is a considerable increase from just a few weeks ago where we were, and I'm sure that's all due to the efforts of Mrs. Schiappa, yourself, and others that are working with you. So
I have to thank all of them. I have to thank all of them because they've been wonderful and they've been very, very helpful.
And so the people know you need to be counted because that translates into dollars directly. Federal dollars come to the village, all villages. And so it's very important to be counted in the census for our economic stability here in Burr Ridge. So thank you for that, Anita. Anybody else have reported communication? I just have a brief one. Mars Candy, our great Mars Inc. Has an office here and their main plant here in Burr Ridge. They were ranked number 23 by Forbes as on the list of best companies to work for in the state of Illinois. So congratulations to Mars Inc. and bringing more good PR to Burr Ridge. So, with that, I have no other reports or communications. Nobody else is indicating that they want to say anything from the board. So I do need a motion, however, at this time to go into closed session to discuss the appointment, employment, compensation, or performance of specific employees of a public body under 5 ILCS 120/2C1.
So moved.
Have a motion?
Second.
Second by trustee Schiappa. Roll call, please.
Trustee Snyder?
Yes.
Trustee Schiappa?
Yes.
Trustee Paveza?
Yes.
Trustee Mytal?
Yes.
Trustee Francis?
Yes.
5-0.
5-0, motion passes. We're in closed session.